Julie, I don't know any Julies.
Very funny.
It's canoes. So, we see.
I was getting
$6 million, then gets cuts on prescription drugs and it's crazy. We'll just.
Are you ready to sit down?
Yes.
Are you ready to sit down?
Really?
The glare out of my
And it's still cutting my hair too, by the way.
I did like the 25 seconds for each, so I condensed it.
Who is he?
Give it a I could tell you if you really want.
Probably not.
I need that
That's a half a gavel because it's the work session. Good afternoon. First half of the meeting is a work session, and there is only one item on the agenda, discussion of proposed river access ordinance. So who is going to present, or how are we going to get this thing started?
Well, Mayor, I was not here for the
Original?
first reading of the ordinance, and I heard a lot of people wanting to have a work session, so I've invited those people and anybody who wants to get up and speak regarding the river ordinance so we can get their input. This river ordinance was started by my predecessor, and it's been ongoing since then, and it's taken this long to get it forward to you, and looking forward to input. So it's not your standard work session format. I would ask that, you know, if the presenters come up, that we don't rehash and hash, you know. If we get ideas and they're all the same, we can, you know, expedite the matter, but however you want to start it off.
Okay.
And I know that
Mr. Chatterley.
Mr. Chatterley is, oh, there he is. Yep, is here.
Do you want to say anything before we start, Mr. Chatterley? You're going to wait until the end.
I think I'll just go ahead and wait for the end and that's
Okay.
all to comment.
So in an orderly fashion, whoever wants to start first, whoever wants to speak first, please identify yourself and if you represent a company or
Yes,
nonprofit.
thank you. My name is Carlos Lopez. I am co-owner of Fisher's Peak Outfitters, one of the entities that utilizes the river in a commercial capacity that would be affected by this particular ordinance. I want to say, first of all, thank you for having this, because we are, again, in favor of a good ordinance. Permitting is something that we have with other agencies like CPW, but we have, you know, concessions that we get for our permitting fees. And we have a long list of things. So first and foremost, how much time do we have dedicated for this particular topic today? I know you have 3 other items for after this, so I just want to make sure that, you know, because if we're going to need to get more time to get into the minutia of things, then maybe a secondary work session might be necessary.
Okay, let's do it this way. I don't want to put a time limitation on it. I mean, it's too important to put a time limitation on it.
Awesome.
I think if everybody wants to speak their piece, let everybody speak their piece or give their suggestions. And then if there's something that comes up from staff or somebody else in the audience, then we can go from there.
Thank you.
I just want you to be mindful that other people are wanting to speak.
Sure.
Okay.
Not going to try to be redundant at anybody else's topics. I'm here to talk about commercial fishing and then also just some other things that I found in this ordinance. So when I went through it, and I went through it line by line, and first of all, how many of you all had a chance to read it line by line? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so not everyone has had a chance. Maybe a gleaning, that happens sometimes. I get that. So that's where we come in as the people that are affected by this, and we want to be able to say, hey, these are some issues, and there's grammatical issues, there's content issues, but here we go.
Okay, do me a favor, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. But when you have a specific area of the ordinance that you're referring to, give us some kind of reference.
Definitely.
Okay.
I have the ordinance here in hand. I use the Google Doc kind of adaptation. It has the same language, but it just didn't have the same format as
Okay.
what was sent to us, or at least sent to me.
Okay,
So first of all, the people that are affected by this ordinance are, one, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Colorado Parks and Wildlife. The Trinidad Fire Chief is also mentioned as someone that would have to take a lead role in this particular ordinance. I'm afraid Chief Bacharach is not here, which is unfortunate.
He's there.
Oh, he is? Oh, sorry, I didn't see Chief. Dark tonight. And then we also have the Water Department, the Purgatory River Run Company, which is our tubing company. Was Mr. Brad Kirby made aware of this? It wasn't on my email thread with the others, so he's definitely a stakeholder, so it's unfortunate that, at least on that thread, he wasn't listed. Maybe he was contacted through a phone call or something, but that's unbeknownst to me. We also have the Trinidad Kayak Company. I don't believe they're in the room here either. Then we have the Purgatory Watershed Partnership, the Youth Club of Trinidad, La Puerta Development Group, because they have a lot of endeavors that are going on along the river, and also the Hilton Gardens. So I'm not sure if they were notified about this meeting, but they are, in my mind, stakeholders as well.
it's a public meeting, sir.
Yes, but usually in a work session, not everyone from the public is always invited to speak.
Posted on our website.
It is now? Okay, that's
It
good to
always
know.
has been.
Okay, thank you. My question is, first of all, why aren't there two ordinances for this? The body of this language speaks to both anyone that's doing any kind of construction work on the river, and in the same breath, also anyone who's doing anything recreational. And one should be used for recreational permits and the other for construction use permits. Construction use permits should need to be seen by Planning and Zoning Commission as well, or at least that's what it's done in the past for other types of building endeavors. So I'm wondering, maybe they're another stakeholder in this and they'll be brought in later. Also, with that being said, a separate application should also be drafted to separate the two types of activities and work agents. Another interesting thing that I found is the application itself. Were you given the application? Okay.
Yes, just
The language itself really speaks more to construction groups than it does to recreational groups. So I think that is something that definitely needs to be cleaned up before we move forward with anything finalized. Two, the CPW need to get a permit as well as anybody else in order to perform any of the fishing, stocking, or river corridor management. They are one of our partners along with PWP and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers who do work on the river. In fact, we're very proud of CPW's work in the past for river rehab, fish stocking, programs with the youth club, etc. And as to right now, the way that this works is they would have to get a permit. And I know you're going to have a session about, fees, etc. And maybe that's part of this one right now. But that is something that needs to be discussed, considering they're giving up services at no cost to the city from a nonprofit, governmental agency capacity. Also, why are disposable containers even listed in this particular body? For some folks, there's a conflicting messaging here in the actual language where it states ambiguously that anyone going down to the river would have to, or would be prohibited from having an open disposable container. And it doesn't just say for commercial use, for work/permit use, it states everybody. So honestly, that might need to be its own separate ordinance if you wanted to alleviate waste, etc. down on the river. Now, considering how, and I don't mean to speak for Ms. Knudsen, but they're the group that goes down there and picks up trash all the time. And in the last meeting, they stated that was one of their challenges right off the bat. So if you're someone that's recreating down there and if you take a Dasani water bottle, because that's what you're afforded, then you can't take that down there and you'll be penalized. I think maybe that should just be removed. Maybe that was brought in through like ChatGPT or some other mechanism to procure this ordinance, but I don't know why it got into it, and maybe if it's in ordinance for Collins or something, but it just seems like that should be something separate, or at least in rules and regs, which is discussed in this ordinance itself. But yeah, that is a challenge. So let's get into some of the meat and potatoes here. I got into 13-4 subsection A10, recreational tubes. And if you need me to pause so you can find that particular section, I'm more than happy to.
I'm sorry, 13 dash what?
13-4, section A, number 10. So I'm going to read that particular portion. Recreational tube means any inflatable flotation or inner tube device that is designed or commonly used to carry people or food or drink on waterways, including, without limitation, inflatable water floats, inner tubes, etc., provided to a customer at the point of sale. I want to harp on that, point of sale for the purpose of floating on water. Now, one of my questions is if other parts of this policy state that things are rented. So when you say point of sale, it indicates a different type of transaction. So that, I think, is something that definitely needs to be clarified. Also, recreational tubes does not mean, and this is interesting, a foam pool toy, fishing float tubes, inflatable, rafts, paddleboards, kayaks, mattresses, recliners, hammocks, or other similar inflatable devices. So per the language that was spoken in a meeting when I believe you asked what kind of agencies would be able to come on board, Mr. Chatterley said, well, a kayak company. Well, right here it says that a recreational tube does not mean a kayak. Now, there's no other language in this that states anything to the definition of a kayak or a paddle board kind of a device, things to that nature. So, and then again, here we have another flub, in my opinion, of where there's need for clarification. Also, I had written down in here, no, I did not say that. This is for sale for rentals. So that's one area. 13-4, section C, number 2. I'll give you a moment. 13-4.
It's right down there.
C, 2. Okay. I believe this is it. Prior to any activity, work permit application being submitted to the City of Trinidad, the applicant shall meet with the city manager and/or his designee for concept review to A, discuss the activity/work, determine the feasibility and benefits of the activity/work. B, determine what other permits will be necessary for the activity/work. And C, determine any barriers for the activity/work. So again, this is geared more towards construction and type of adaptations of the river maintenance. So why does this apply to an outfitter? It really doesn't. So my question here is why does an outfitter need to meet with the city manager every time a permit application is submitted? We do permits with CPW and we submit it through an online portal, and if there's any questions, we will discuss it, and it's usually via email to figure things out. Once in a while through a physical sit down, but that's only if we're looking for access for a new territory. So I'm wondering, shouldn't a renewal be handled without meetings? We do other administrative type of renewals here in the city, so I'm just kind of questioning why that's even in there. Let's move on. 13-4, section C3. Again, that's 13-4, section C, number 3. Should the activity/work be determined feasible and beneficial, the applicant shall submit to the city manager or his or her designee an application that thoroughly described the activity, work, and design which illustrates compatibility with watershed, compliance, and water quality requirements, and that their activity/work is constructible and functional. Additionally, if necessary, a water control plan shall be submitted to the appropriate state and/or federal agency and copied to the City of Trinidad. Said plan will identify what resources are to be protected, a stormwater management plan if necessary, including phasing, sequencing of our work, control measures, diversion, stream crossing, stabilization methods, dewatering plans, and grading, erosion of sediment and control. So, again, and I know it says activity work, so that makes me think it's geared towards a construction company. But does that also mean, in some vague way, someone could misconstrue that we as an outfitter need to provide a watershed plan? I mean, I'm looking down the road how someone could start to say, this is applicable to you, because they're both together.
Excuse me, I think maybe what would clear it up, and I'm not sure exactly why we don't have a definition for commercial recreational use. It seems like that is all covered, anything about that's covered in the outfitter's permit. So I tend to agree that it needs clarification. All of that is far too complicated for someone who's just trying to put some floats on the water. But maybe if we could just have a definitional area that says commercial recreational use, and then limit the parts of the ordinance that apply to activity and work that does not involve recreational use.
Okay, thank you.
That couldn't be described under definitions.
Well, yeah, but there isn't any definition for
Right.
commercial recreational use.
But I mean, can that be correct?
I think it could, and then you would know anytime when you saw activity work permit, you weren't talking about recreational permits.
And that's just it. There's a lot of vagueness, because if you're someone who's not in this process, you don't know that we're talking about two different types of entities. It's just confusing. So I'm going to move on now to 13-4E, as in Edward, number 5. Use of public access points to the Purgatory River by an outfitter / commercial user. And that is definitely, you can see that that's geared towards someone like me. But the issues that I have here is in letter A, under number 1. Trip restrictions. No outfitter / commercial user shall outfit more trips than authorized by outfitter / commercial user's permit, special event permit, or otherwise. So why is special event permit all of a sudden thrown into this language? Nowhere else has it been designated in definitions. It hasn't been designated anywhere else that I could see as a permit. Otherwise, it's just a long-term permit, which is what we would need for us is, we start our permit process this time, it goes through this season, that's it. But now there's this other language about a special event permit. So again, clarification, or otherwise. And then I put in here also, what is the standard used to be determined the number of trips? Has CPW's input been requested to find an objective or subjective set of standards to determine what the river health can handle for those types of activities? And I hope that this will be a discussion with our friends here from CPW. Subsection 2 there. Date and time restrictions. In addition to other closures or suspensions as listed below, access to the Purgatory River corridor by the outfitter / commercial users and customers may be closed and not permitted at the city manager's discretion for other justified reasons. Again, what are these justified reasons? We need to have clear expectations and boundaries so that we can know what is to be prohibited. So that way, violations don't occur. Otherwise, it could be just misconstrued. Well, I think I can justify this reason because of X, Y, or Z. Again, clarification. So, right below that, in number 3, I have another challenge. The city reserves the right to suspend any outfitter's commercial users' commercial operations on the Purgatory River corridor at any time when river health conditions are critical and negative impacts may result from operations. So my thought is, well, what dictates the need for suspension of activities? What defines poor river health conditions and negative impacts? So in the body, it states that, in another section though, and I will allude to this and give credit, it does state that they will utilize Army Corps of Engineers and CPW's rules and regulations, but that's for a separate section that need to be followed by the chief, fire chief. So I'm wondering if we're burdening now the chief with learning all of CPW's rules and regulations to follow, when he's already got enough challenges on his hands between his current duties. Maybe this should be handled better by someone who already does this, like CPW. That would make sense to me. But again, I digress. So that was that particular challenge. And then let's move on here to the subsection. I'll just continue reading. Pardon me. In addition, the city may suspend certain types of outfitter operations based on any or all of the following criteria as outlined in the administrative rules and regulations. Purgatory river flow. Which of our staff on hand currently is able to talk to this? Maybe it's Mr. Ramirez, maybe it's somebody else from the water department. I would hope so, but again, this is for the river flow after the dam. I think other sections of the river might be better clarified for some people. And also, dissolved oxygen levels. Who is going to know that? And also, one of the typos I found right there is it should say and or. After dissolved oxygen levels, or it says it should say and or water temperatures. So just a little, sorry. I had Mr. DeBono for an English teacher, sorry. He was very critical. So where are these rules and regulations so we can all be aware to anticipate loss of use and access? These are not listed in the body of this ordinance. That could become later in the rules and regs, but then again, that might be a separate work session to go through those as well. Again, we're in favor of a good permitting process, a good ordinance, but we want a good one. We want to take our time, do it right. If we've been waiting since 1966, what's the rush for another 6 months? That's my point. I'm going to continue on. Subsection 5 of there, which is 13 dash, let me see if I got that at 6. No, I already wrote that. I'm sorry. Yep, I spoke to that document. Sorry, I lost my place. 13-6, subsection 5. I'll give you a moment. If the city limits or suspends activities pursuant to subsection 5 above, outfitters, commercial users shall not operate until the fire chief has determined that the conditions improved. So my question is this is something that we need to know as outfitters. How often will the chief check the conditions? At how many designated points in the river will this be performed? I mean, the river is not just like you check at one spot and it's the same throughout. You have different eddy systems and flows and pools and different things. So I think maybe if like one section is not healthy, that should not shut off the entire usage of the entire permitted area in the property. And that's another thing. Why isn't there a map to show what the city limits are in here? I mean, there's not even like a city map addendum in the body. So anyway, just another comment. We're going to move on to the next section, which is number 7, and it's about the fees. A permit fee will be required for outfitters, commercial users that will be established by city council resolution. An outfitter/commercial user shall pay and the city shall collect such a fee by or on the 20th day of September annually to the city. Well, just want to let you all know, the Army Corps of Engineers currently opens the floodgates for irrigators' calls on April 1st, and it closes on October 15th. So why I think that date, maybe it's arbitrary, that was selected for the date of permit fees, doesn't make sense for me as an outfitter. Why would I want to pay at the end of the season? I mean, sure, if you want to take my money late, and I'll use it for the whole summer, and then I only get a month and a half worth of use. Otherwise, it sounds like my permit starts on the 5th or the 1st of, or 20th of September and only goes to the 15th of October. Again, another clerical or just administrative challenge that I'm finding going through this. Let's see. The next section, number 8, required equipment. For each recreational tube rented, each outfitter shall include a personal flotation device that is in good and serviceable condition and of the proper size for the intended user. For each fishing customer of a fishing outfitter, the outfitter shall include or require a personal flotation device that is in good and serviceable condition and of the proper size for the intended user. Have any of you guys ever gone on a fly fishing excursion, paid to someone? You have? Did you have to wear a personal flotation device? If the water was running too high, did they avoid it?
No.
They did? They stayed in it?
Yeah.
Really?
Kind of.
Well, I want to let you know, whenever...
Eddie, you know, you're in the Eddie.
Oh, you were in a boat?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, you weren't like walking with waders and...
Oh, yeah.
You were? Okay.
You can do that.
Okay, so for us, if the water here is flowing so hard it looks like chocolate milk, we're not going to fish it. There's no point. Our customers won't have any success. We want them to have a good time. We want them to be successful, come back for return business. And I think, requiring us to put on a personal flotation device is just a bit much. I can understand why you might put that language in for a tuber who's on the water, in the water, flowing through, but this is something I think that just needs to be addressed subjectively with a scalpel versus kind of just a big hatchet.
Mr. Lopez, how much more do you have? Because you've taken up 20.
And that's why I asked how much time we have, ma'am, because this is important to me.
It is important to you, but there's other people.
I understand that. Well, again, that just goes to my statement that there are a lot of problems. I am almost through, though, with my
Okay.
answer.
Just
Sure,
wondering.
I understand, but that's why I asked. Again, some other clerical issues I've got in here too. The sentence need grammatical revisions. What is this? Yeah, there's this weird section. Compliance with laws. Outfitters whose customers use any public, the Purgatory River, that's why I put what. Access should comply with the applicable state licensing, any other applicable state, federal, or local laws and regulations. Again, just some work that needs to be done. And then, again, we get into disposable containers, which is actually section F, disposable containers. I really think that just needs to be a separate ordinance. If you don't want to allow people to have a single-use can, if you take a Coke down there or something, have that as a separate ordinance. That really does not need to be in here. Because as the way it reads in section F, it's applicable to all, not just people who hold a permit. So language needs to be clarified. And then also, the next section where I had a problem, section 13-6, penalty for violations. It states that any person who shall violate section 13-2 or 13-3 or 13-4 of this chapter shall be subject to punishment as provided in section 1 through 8 of this code. I think if someone's applying for this, then you should provide section 13-2 and 13-3, so that way they're well aware of whatever these provisions may be. I believe the last thing I have, according to my, two more things, does the city have any conflict with any of the county ordinances as of this? Has this been looked into? Has it even been asked? I think that's another question that should be checked upon with the county to make sure that any of these ordinances don't have any challenges and kickback. Lastly, when it comes to the safety portion, and I think that, I go back, this is important. So when I believe you asked Mr. Chatterley last time, what do these people get with their permits? His response, I believe, and I'm paraphrasing, was they get access to the river. Well, we already have that. So now I'm paying and going through a process of red tape to get what I already have. So I'm going to get back to the safety issue. Are you guys going to pull out those jetty jacks where people float by that are along the river periodically? Because that is a big safety concern for me. If we walk by there, those big iron crosses that were very prevalent and utilized before we had the dam, when they would catch debris that would flow through from heavy rains. They would catch cars, they would catch trees, they would catch whatever came down that was big. They're remnants of a time before the dam. And if you want to have a healthy, active, recreational corridor, they got to go. And that's not going to be on me. That's going to be on the city. That is something that's going to have to be provided in conjunction with this safety component. Lastly, the city states that the access to the river will be granted to those holding a permit in lieu of their permits and fees. I guess I just said that. We already have that. Is the city going to stock fish for us? Are they going to provide resources so CPW can stock fish? That's typically what we get when we get a permit with CPW. We get healthy environments that have good fish habitat, clean bathrooms that are unlocked, and trash cans that are empty. Right now, when we go down to like the river bottom area, to the boulevard, we can't always access the bathrooms because they have been locked. Now we have this new camping ban which just took effect, so that might mitigate some of those challenges, and that's the reasoning, I believe, for why they were locked, but I can't go off of what might be, I go off of what is. So those are my statements. I'm going to pass the baton off to whoever wants to speak next, but again, I want to reiterate, I think this just needs to be done well. I think there needs to be two ordinances because there's too many conflicting messages, and again, we are supportive of a good ordinance, but a good one. And a permit, we're happy to provide, but we want something in concession for what we're giving up to. Thank you for your time.
please state your name for the record?
This is Julie Knudsen with the Purgatory Watershed Partnership. And thank you, Carlos, and bless you for going through all of those micro edits, micro and macro edits. So we'll build on that. Thank you for holding this work session on the development of the river access permit, and thank you for the opportunity to provide input. We do have some compliments, suggestions, and questions for you today. So starting with the compliments, we do really appreciate that the city is taking formal steps to protect our river and community. We also appreciate that the city is thinking about the bigger picture of addressing water delivery and management, as well as community health and safety, along with addressing recreation and the health of our river and wildlife. And of course, we understand that this permitting system is needed to protect city liability and land management concerns. Some editing suggestions. Again, Carlos covered a lot of the edits. There were misspellings, a lot of things that need to be clarified. Thank you, Carlos, for covering a lot of that. We did have a couple other items we just wanted to touch on as well. The disposable container language of 13-4 Part F. We would suggest removing that section altogether. We are not Fort Collins. We are not a city where we're overrun with community members and tourists flocking to the river corridor to enjoy the day and recreate, leaving cans and bottles all over the place. We actually have the exact opposite problem in that we are trying to encourage community members and tourists to come spend the day with us downtown and enjoy a nice day on the river and eat and shop at our local businesses. Being able to bring the kids and a cooler of some drinks such as soda cans or other recyclable materials to enjoy while hanging out and playing by the river as part of that experience is critical. We can see how you may want to discourage open container alcohol consumption or discourage littering, but to ban any disposable containers at this time doesn't make sense for the way our community members would like to use the river. Number 2, since all of our river project work, Purgatory Watershed Partnership, is being conducted in direct collaboration with the city and for the direct benefit of the city, we feel that more conversations are needed to update the document language about permitting fees, replacing landscaping, etc., as it relates to our organization specifically. We have written and secured millions of dollars to fund river project work on behalf of the city, and everything we do in the river is done together with the city. So will PWP and the city be co-applicants on these permits? We feel that there is a lot more to be sorted out in the document language related to our organization specifically and construction work that we're doing together in the river. Number 3, this is more of a question, I guess, but what about all of our community steward river cleanup events where we are cleaning up the city river walk and river corridor for free, and our community river education and stewardship events that we hold along the river to help teach our kids and other community members how to be good stewards of our river and the city river walk, also at no cost to the city? Are we expected to get permits and pay permit fees for these efforts? The document language is vague. Other questions. And again, I'm trying to present these questions as politely and respectfully as possible. So question 1, a lot of partners are asking us, why is this permitting process being shoved through so quickly all of a sudden? Clearly, as Mr. Lopez pointed out, we've had since 1966 to develop and institute this permitting system. At any time since then, we could have and still can set up a series of meetings with river partners to thoughtfully develop a permitting process that would actually address and resolve some of our current problems that we are having on the river. Unfortunately, this current document before us seems to fall short in resolving current river problems. As well, not all river partners were looped into this process, and those partners who were looped in were only looped in at the last minute. And of the partners who were invited to be here today, we had to scramble to provide some sort of useful edits and input to you all between 5:02 p.m. Thursday night when we received this document and now. So this feels sad for all of us who have worked so hard for so many years in close collaboration with the city to clean up and improve the river for the direct benefit of our city and our community. All of us who work in and on the river regularly would know better than anyone how to develop a permitting process to maximize benefit for our community, river, and wildlife. Question 2. Another question people are asking is why in the world would we be trying to shove through a permitting process like this so fast that is going to heavily involve the new city manager without allowing the new city manager to have time to get her feet under her and have a strong hand in the development of this process? Have you seen how many times the city manager is named throughout the document as being responsible for different aspects of this permitting process? This just doesn't make sense, and again, has a lot of people asking me, why is this process happening so quickly and without her? Question 3, another question is related to communication. As many of you know, PWP is currently working closely with our city floodplain manager and city engineer, as well as our city watershed manager and multiple other amazing city staff on a $5 million river development project in downtown Trinidad, which includes the development of an exciting community river park such as towns like Salida have that draw in thousands of visitors a year to spend money in their downtown area and is an incredible asset for their community members and their kids. We're incredibly excited about this community designed and driven river project that we have been working on hand in hand with the city. To state that again, we have been working closely and together with all relevant city staff every step of the way on this river project work. We are in close communication with each other. Some of us talk regularly every week, and we all have each other's cell phone numbers and know that we can call each other anytime that we have questions or concerns. Everyone also knows that there are ever any issues, we will always stop and talk it through to find the best possible solution. Interestingly, it is not any of these city staff who we already work regularly with on the river, who originally brought this permitting process forward. I'm going to leave that there. I'm almost done. Anyway, moving on to a couple examples of current problems on the river that we could actually resolve with this permitting effort if we took the time to do this thoughtfully and comprehensively. And I should point out that these are just a couple ideas since we haven't been given ample time to think this through fully. But one example is, what about the protection of permitted work? Vandals continue to destroy installed fish habitat rockwork in the river and otherwise deface and injure other river infrastructure. How can this permitting effort be rewritten to help protect and enforce the protection of river project work and other river infrastructure, both for project work conducted solely by the city, as well as for work conducted in collaboration with other partners? Example number 2, what about other public safety issues? We have a landowner near Linden Street who has been forced to install barbed wire fencing along their property line to keep out vandals and illegal campers. This barbed wire fencing is strung directly across the river. Go check it out. It's hard to see. You can see it from the Linden Street Bridge. It's on the immediate downstream side of that bridge. It is highly likely that a recreational tuber will soon go floating down our river and fly right into that barbed wire at neck height and get seriously injured. But with some collaboration and communication with this private landowner and others, we could absolutely all come together to creatively develop some win-win solutions and permitting language that would help that landowner better protect their property while also addressing a very serious public safety concern. Final example, number 3, what about optimizing environmental conditions and protections for fish? There is a lot that goes into optimizing river environmental conditions for fish, and a lot we could be doing to better protect our fish and aquatic life on our downtown stretch of river. And again, we say this politely, but we just don't feel that the current writers of this permitting document understand fish biology or ecology, or even fully understand the dissolved oxygen and water temperature components. So it seems critical that we hold some meetings with our Colorado Parks and Wildlife staff, including Bob Holder and Adam Friedel, so that we can thoughtfully rework this permitting language to most effectively protect our aquatic life while also optimizing recreational opportunities. Anyway, those are just a couple ideas of things we could fix if we would take the time to develop this permitting effort the right way. So for all of these reasons, we would like to request that development of this permitting process be put on hold until the new city manager has her feet under her and can fully engage, and so that we have time to do this right. That is my request to you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and we look forward to continuing to work together with the city and all of our river partners on developing a permitting process that truly and fully serves our city, our community, our river, and our wildlife. Thank you.
Hello again. And there are still fish in the river. Okay. I had a dog and pony show back there ready to show everybody about all the work that we have done in the last, since 2009, to improve the river corridor for environmental, invasive species, fish habitat, recreational opportunities, and all that stuff. But you guys are getting glazed over, so I won't go into that. And if you want, I can go through, show you everything that's been done, and it's been done for the last 15, 20 years, because it's done by people that are really involved and want to get this river to where it needs to be. The permit systems I don't think are a bad idea. I just think they're a little bit too much and not thought out completely. A couple things just for example, and Julie alluded to it, but we have a group of people every first Saturday of every month, and we've had this for about 6 years now, that goes anywhere from 20 to 50 people that will go out and clean the river and really, really impose, because the city doesn't have staff to do it and things like that. These are people that want to see this river as the jewel of downtown, which we all do. So that's something I think that permits, probably we should have a blanket permit at no cost so that we can continue to do that work for year after year after year. So that's one of my suggestions. The other thing too is water systems are so critical. They're affected by so many things. Just runoff from the city. You know, the city and from the highway, we have all the different aspects. Whenever the snow's there, the quality of water goes down fairly quickly because of the runoff that brings in the sodium chloride and a lot of other things that are going on. People dumping oil in their gutters. I mean, stuff that is, you know, people I don't think are environmental vandals, they just don't know any better. It's convenient. So those are things that we have to think about, and how do we do that? So what we need to do is make sure the city manager has staff under them that know what they're doing. That should be somebody that is familiar with environmental engineering, should be somebody with structural engineering, and somebody that knows water law. That is one of the things that is got the city in more trouble in the last 10 years is not knowing what the water law is and getting into conflict with people who own the water, like the irrigators and people like that. PWP has had an extremely fruitful relationship with Corps of Engineers, with Parks and Wildlife, with irrigators and everybody involved, because we all talk to each other. We all understand what the concerns are, how to address those concerns, and how to get them resolved. We've had great success over the years in being able to work very closely with each other and get things done. The other thing too is, and it was a very good question that Carlos brought up about, are you going to start charging us to a permit fee to put fish in the river to create a tourism attraction? This river has become a very, very good fishery. And the TU chapter here in Trinidad for the last 5-6 years has donated money every year with cooperation from Parks and Wildlife to put fish in the river for people to catch. And we also sponsor youth education. We'll have 100 kids down there putting in 500 to 600 squirmy little 5-inch trout, which is quite a sight if you've never been there. It's a lot of fun. They learn a lot of stuff. Julie's done a great job in environmental education and all the things that are very important for kids to understand what we got here. When we first started Water Festival, I'll never forget this, first couple of years, we would have kids, 5, 6, 7-year-olds, didn't even know we had a river. Did not know we had a river. And back then, the river was pretty well overgrown. I mean, unless you were on the bridge looking at it, you couldn't see it. But parents didn't take them down there because there was no access to the river. So over the years, it's cleaned up. It's very nice. We've got it. It's a great camping spot. People, we don't want camping there. But it's something that, we have created a jewel that we have to protect, and we have to make sure we make all the right steps to do that. And that is very important, that everybody talks to everybody else. This thing, I'll have to say, it came up as a surprise to everybody, and I was very ill-timed because we've talked about it. You've heard me talk about it ad nauseum about, let's get together, talk about what your plans are, what do you want to do, how you want to do it. We've always had good conversations with all our partners in the river. Beginning in the very beginning with FinTech, Tara Marshall was part of that. She was very helpful, and she understands what was going on at the very beginning. So I'm glad to see that she's hopefully going to take a big part of this. But everybody has to be involved with it. I'll talk all day long if you want to talk about habitat, fish, and everything else that's been done. It's something that's a passion. We took a river that was ignored. I mean, the stuff that we cleared out of the boulevard when we first started was unbelievable. Julie gets excited about 10, 15 trash bags. I used to get excited about 3 to 4 roll-offs, 20-yard roll-offs of crap that we pulled out of the boulevard. That's how neglected this river is. Now, you've got a jewel. It's almost where we need to have it. And I think I told the mayor when we had our river cutting, it almost brings me to tears because I can remember what it was before and what it is now, and the difference is unbelievable. And we have to protect it. We have to have the right people. This is a quality of life issue for our citizens of Trinidad, 9,000 people that have a jewel that they want to protect. And we want to protect it also. And so I think let's just take a step back and look at this thing, and let's go through it with everybody that's involved here today. Let's have discussions about this. What's the pros? What's the cons? We don't have to push into this thing. It's been since 1966. The city's really been involved in the last, 7, 8 years? It's part of those things that we just cannot, it's too valuable a thing to come in with just not knowing what all the consequences are going to be, because, you used to go down there, dump all your trash down in the boulevard, and there's no consequence. Nobody's going to see it until we get down there and start cleaning it up. And now it's quite the thing. So I would hope that we could all sit down and do a little more discussion on this thing, because the cooperation with everybody involved, I'm talking about the guys, the end users down in Honey and everybody else, and people up at the very top of the watershed. This is an ecosystem that's unique in the state, and it's one of the last unencumbered rivers in the state of Colorado. We don't have Pueblo, we don't have Denver, we don't have anybody down here taking our water. So that's something I think that we really, really have to protect. And we all understand 13,000 feet all the way down here. It's quite the ecosystem. So I would implore you, let's have some more discussion about this so we can get this thing figured out. Thank you.
Yes.
Man, I just wanted to ask, is it really hot in here?
Yeah.
I see somebody fanning
I
themselves.
wasn't gonna ask, but I saw people fanning themselves and I figured, I'm always on.
Now we got problems.
Problem.
We're in trouble now.
We're in trouble now.
Are we ready?
Are you ready?
Folks, my name's Bob Holder. I'm a District Wildlife Manager for the Division of Wildlife here in Western Los Animas County. Little explanation here on the collar. I was floating the river the other day and hooked on a barbed wire fence. Almost bled out right there, but folks, I'm not going to argue each specific point or anything like that. I don't think as a representative of state agency that I can do that. I can say, in my opinion, that you don't be the person at their own game. I tried to be a stylist, hairdresser, and you see what happened to me. So I let everything go to Maddie right there. Guys, what I'm saying is, Colorado Parks and Wildlife has the professional entity to do these things. I'm not saying it's me. I can assure you it isn't. But we have aquatic biologists from Pueblo all the way up through Denver that will help us with this or help the city with that, anything to do with the river. What I am concerned about, I guess, is communication. We just want to be a part of it. Some of these things I just heard about the other day. We're listed as one of the group or whatever supportive groups, but we need to be aware of what's going on, just like Central Park Lake or anything like that. We just ask that you come to us for our expertise, again, not mine personally, but the expertise that we have within the agency. And I'm talking decades of aquatic biologists and everything else. Anything to do on the river with fishing is under the guise of the Colorado Parks and Wildlife. When Trout Unlimited puts fish in there, they have to go through our system to make sure that those fish are healthy, clean of disease and that kind of stuff before those go in. So that's part of that permitting. We also stock the lake, or excuse me, we stock all the lakes around, but we also stock the river. Anytime anyone fishes the Purgatory River, 16 years of age or over, they have to have a fishing license. That state fishing license, that goes to pay for fish that are put in the lakes or in the river or anything like that. So obviously we do have a buy-in in this. As far as some of the other things that were mentioned, flotation devices and all of those things, again, CPW regulates a lot of that. So that needs to be, I guess it's critical aspect that we are involved in this. And again, guys, I'm going to tell you straight up, I'm not the expert, but I do know where to go to get the answers, and we'll help in any way we can. Let me ask you, how can we help you guys? I mean, we've talked to, I've heard what Carlos has to say. We've talked about it, Julie. But how can we help you? What do you need from us to make this work?
Well, let me tell you, Mr. Holder, thank you. First thing that's crystal clear here, I think there's misconceptions about why the city's doing this and what the city is doing. One of our agenda items on our special meeting is we're getting ready to commit some more funding for the Riverwalk project. So we have to make sure that, and excuse me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chatterley or Mr. Ramirez, Mr. Valentine, we're not wanting to do anything with the fish habitat. We want to make sure that the shores of that river stay clean. I think Mr. Lackey mentioned something about it's clean now. Well, you know what, if it's clean and it's usable, build it and they will come. So honestly, our only intent on this ordinance was to make sure that nobody goes in and builds or destroys anything on that riverbed that will deter our river walk project. That's it. We've spent, I think, over $600,000 already. And today we're gonna commit, hopefully, another $300,000. So that is, I'm not qualified. I'm an old lady that sells insurance. But that's, and to be truthful with it, about it, Mr. Chatterley and I talked about it. We want to put safeguards on those banks, especially on those banks where all the money that we're going, have you ever seen the models of the Riverwalk that we've had?
The what?
The Riverwalk project.
No.
You never
The models?
Yes.
No.
Okay, well, I think maybe what we need to do is get back and show you what we're planning for this specific area of the Riverwalk between Animas and what is it, Cedar Street? Pardon? Commercial Street, right. That's what there's no safeguards for anybody to go down there and put anything they want in there. We have permits for every recreational area within the city limits of Trinidad. If you want to use Central Park for an organized event, you have to come to us because we have to make sure that you protect the public. If you don't protect the public, then the city of Trinidad is responsible. So I think it's crystal clear that you don't understand what we're doing, and I think we mentioned in a couple of meetings before this that we were not going to do any permits for nonprofits or recreational use. We have to have some kind of record as to who's using our property for what.
I understand that, and I'm not
No,
I'm not
just-
saying that there was any indication that
No,
that you were going to do anything against CPW regulations.
And that's our only concern.
Okay. Well, anybody that knows anything about aquatic biology or fisheries or anything knows that bank stabilization is a major part of that,
Right.
regardless of any riparian zone, which extends out from the bank. Part of my concern, obviously, is going to be bears and all the other movement corridors and things like that. So, my main thing, Mayor, is to give to you folks anything that CPW can help you with. Same with any of the other entities. If we can help in a professional manner, please let us know. We will be there. But I think one of the things, a breakdown on this one, the way it appears, was that there was no communication with us.
Well,
So,
it was a misunderstanding, I think. We had, that had nothing to do with the fish or the river per se. It was just this project and how people that are going to do something on the river will jeopardize. I think the next step would I'd like to get a hold of the Architera Group. They are the company that did the, I can't remember what the project was through Denver, but they built many projects, river walk projects. I want you to see their vision for that river walk. And I think you and I and everybody that's talked today has the same objective. We want a good river for everybody to enjoy.
absolutely. Safe for humans and safe for wildlife.
Right.
All aspects, aquatic and
Right.
terrestrial.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to achieve, so. I'd like my colleagues to sound in.
It is clear to me that, like you're saying, Mayor, that we have been not as clear about what the point of this is. I think that would have been really helpful to perhaps be more blunt about what we're trying to do, because it seems to me that everyone who's come up here said, well, wait, this affects me, and I'm not addressed here appropriately, whereas we're not trying to change anything
No.
about the way that you're doing things.
No.
And that always is a problem when you're trying to protect something. I think one of the things I've learned watching over the years is that the river is critically important to everyone in the city. And everything that we have done that has touched the river has resulted in this much of, if not blowback, riled kinds of interest and outspoken concern. And thank God, we want people that interested and concerned. I do think that listening to all this, that it would be better to scale this back. I do think that if we do need something that pertains particularly to outfitters, it might be better to split it out, because the stuff that involves people who are doing work on the banks really don't apply to people who are
No.
stepping into the water to fly fish. So whatever concerns that's creating should be addressed in a separate thing.
Okay.
I think. I agree with that.
I didn't realize there was another speaker. So do you have anything else? Mr.
I don't, Mayor, unless, are you going to help me financially with my,
Well, we'll put up a GoFundMe page for you, Bob.
It's hard to follow the comedians. I'm Kim Phelan, I'm with the Army Corps of Engineers, I'm the lake manager up here at Trinidad Lake. And I just want to clarify, there's two different segments of the Army Corps. One is Civil Works, which is the lake operations, and one is Regulatory, which does all the permitting in the river and any waters of the U.S. when there's any actual activities going in there. So I'm only speaking from lake operations, and I just got this, so I'm going to have to go through kind of my notes here, so bear with me. All the points that I've heard have been excellent, and I think you were summing it up, probably alleviating a lot of my concerns and everything. But I think it's great to probably go two different directions or two different ordinances with recreation versus construction. And I think the regulatory part of the Army Corps deals with a lot of the, any of the permitting. And I wouldn't want to see the city step in and try to regulate something that's already regulated by the Corps. Let's see, sorry, let me read through a couple notes here. I think the nonprofits, I think, Madam Mayor, you discussed the nonprofits not needing a permit, and that covers CPW at their fish stocking, electrofishing, and PWP, et cetera. Let's see. I had a question, if you start on page 1, I think Carlos touched on it, that just it being summer recreation opportunities. Occasionally we have stockwater coming through, there's still winter fly fishing available and everything, just keep that in mind. I had a question on 13-4A, number 5, the definition of an outfitter and what triggers that. Would paying somebody to take a couple people fishing trigger that outfitter, or are they exempt? Just something maybe to think about. If a group went out with 3 people and paid somebody $100, does that count as an outfitter? Discuss the definition of the embankment. Under 13-4C, number 3, and I don't know, do you want to spend the time on any edits, or will this be going back?
No, I think we're going to let the people from the city speak, and then
Okay.
I think it's pretty obvious that we need another.
Okay.
We need another session.
Okay, there were a couple little typos, I'll skip over those. The water control plan, also in that, number 3. Additionally, if necessary, a water control plan shall be submitted to the appropriate state and/or federal agency. I think maybe how that comes about is maybe out of order, because it should always be, if it is in the waters of the U.S., you would go through the Army Corps of Engineers first and let them screen it for you before it gets to the city, in my opinion, before put the onus on the applicant instead of on the city to determine that. Also, in C, number 6, the permit fee, I think that was discussed as to how that will be set and how much that is. Under number 8, the Division of Natural Resources Substitute Water Supply Plan. Again, I am not an expert with the state requirements, but I have never heard of that. I don't know if that is an actual thing. So it's just a question. Under, let's see, 13-4E and number 3, I wasn't sure how those 3 things came about as to be your criteria. And just again, to reiterate, the Purgatory River flow, we take our water releases out of the dam from the State Division of Water Resources. That can change at any time. It can change throughout the day. So I don't know if somebody wanted if they couldn't do their event unless it was a certain flow, how you could permit that on a certain day. I mean, we wouldn't know, you wouldn't know. So just keep that in mind as you're doing any permitting and such. I believe B and C is for fish, but again, I'm not sure how just those 2 came about to be your criteria. Under number 4, I think we're mixing agencies there. We have, in consultation with the Army Corps State Engineer, I believe nobody does water quality per se, but perhaps that's more covered by the State Division of Water Resources or the USGS, but it's not the Army Corps that's doing that. I didn't understand 5. I don't know how the Army Corps of Engineers works with the fire chief to do water restrictions. That's out of our wheelhouse. Again, under 7, the 20th day of September, I wasn't sure what the date was on that. Under 8, under required equipment, I also reiterate what Mr. Lopez said about the fly fishing folks needing life jackets, and I'll leave that for further discussion, but you may just want to put the U.S. Coast Guard approved life jackets. That's kind of the industry standard. And I did not understand the relevance of the disposable containers. That might be a part 3 in there. Under your actual channel permit, and I know you'll probably go through and redo this, but on number 2 on that, I thought that was kind of duplicative maybe of the Army Corps regulatory. That would be outlined in their permits. And that's all I have. So thank you.
Mayor, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Ms. Phelan, thank you
Yeah.
for your time here today. In your professional opinion, would the Army Corps of Engineers, and I mean, it sounds like yes is the appropriate answer, but is the Army Corps of Engineers directly involved in this permitting process?
Yes, the regulatory part would be, yeah.
And then the second question is, when did you first see the language of this?
At about noon
Okay.
that I read through it, yes.
All right, thank you.
And I did reach out to our regulatory branch and they had not seen it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else besides Mr. Chatterley, Mr. Ramirez? Would you like to come up, Mr. Chatterley?
Mayor, Council, I'd like to thank you for your time in setting up this work session. I think you heard some very valuable feedback from parties who would be, a partner or affected by this ordinance. I submitted some recommendations myself to Mr. Valentine, I think it was Friday, about some improvements that I saw myself. But unless you have any questions, I really don't have any recommendations other than what you've heard for you all to consider. Just a reminder that the purpose of this ordinance is to set some sort of management standards for a city resource, a city amenity, which is not uncommon, and we have it for all our city amenities, whether it be a park or a street or a building or a facility. So that is the purpose of this, is to set us a standard so we know how to manage a public resource.
So kind of explain what you and I have been talking about. We're not talking about we're not talking about river water rights. We're talking about just the land that the city owns adjacent to the property, to the river, I'm sorry.
What it says. And our obligation.
Is this a closed circuit? It's not. Okay.
Hello?
It might be my wife, because she's at home with the baby, she's the co-owner.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Right, so city property, and we're operating whatever obligations we have per that 1966 agreement to maintain the channel for a 15,000 CFS flow.
Okay.
But that's
it.
That's it.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Do you have any? Sure, go ahead.
Is there any deadline that we're working against with regard to, I understand what you're saying, that this has something to do with the
Architecture.
yeah, that they're saying that we should have something like this in place to facilitate the award of grants, I'm guessing?
Yes.
Is part of this? Okay, so is there a deadline we're working against to get this done so that we have it in place by then?
I don't think there's
There's no hard deadline.
But the further you dig the hole, the deeper down you're going to get, and it's better to address it now than,
Right,
you
but
know.
I just think if there is not a hard
It's not an
deadline.
emergency, it's just, actually, it was after I've been meeting with Mr. Chatterley and Mr. Shoemaker and the Architera group, and we're trying to build a foundation to start that Riverwalk project. And before we start getting into the $5-6 million figures, we have to get these legal issues settled and make sure that we have control over what this money that we're investing in the.
That all sounds very reasonable, but it also, I think, we're seeing areas where we are stepping into the Army Corps of Engineers,
Yeah,
CPW. We need to not be doing that.
No.
This should be as simple as possible and clarify that this is not intended to in any way intrude on
No.
their jurisdiction. So I think it behooves us to do exactly what the people here are saying. Let's have very real input, even point-by-point input, and get this done right. It doesn't mean it has to take another 6 months,
No.
but it only makes sense that we do this right.
Yes.
We don't need to waste anybody's time who doesn't need to be part of this whole thing.
Okay. Mr. DeBono, do you have any question of Mr. Chat?
No, Jared, I just, I know Mr. Holder's concern as well as Mr. Lackey's that maybe the wrong utilization of the river access is compromising and jeopardizing a lot of the habitat preservation and a lot of the river maintenance. I mean, in the past, I've seen kids on a car hood go down the Purgatory River. No, I'm serious.
Well, and I know for a fact there's been a lot of fish habitat, as they've mentioned, where the rocks have been moved and the structures destroyed to make pools for our unhoused, community to swim in and stuff like that. So there's definitely some areas of regulation and help that could be definitely beneficial that could come out of this ordinance to help the efforts of other folks doing work on the river.
Right, and they're leaving their debris and the car hood and whatever else is there for somebody else to clean up.
Absolutely.
Mr. DeBona, do you have any questions?
You just answered.
Mr. Shu?
Mr. Trujillo?
I don't have any, I'm not sure. There's so much here.
Yeah.
Thank you for providing a good framework to start.
And I can't take credit for having written this. Miss Audra was the one who composed the actual ordinance itself. I have the opportunity to defend it, or so. But it is a good framework. I agree, and there's a lot of good thing there, and obviously, per the suggestions, there's room for improvement.
And the amount of resources that we have out there that we need to start utilizing. I mean, we have experts in every field. They're sitting here. We really need to really communicate with them. We can't fix what we haven't done in the past, but as moving forward, I think if we open that channel of communication, I think we can do these a lot better. We can probably make sure that things become flawless and everybody's on the same page. There's a consistency. I think that would be the best way that we can move forward on trying to get this going. I do agree that it needs to be extremely simplified. It almost sounds like what we're looking for is almost even just a calendar of who's there, which the permitting process does. But as stringent as this is coming across, it is, I don't want to say ruffling feathers, but interfering almost. For us to regulate that, I think we need their input 100%. I would like to honestly see when we go forward with this is some type of maybe an email chain going back and forth, developing it, or even some type of committee within it that would be willing to give the time, to go through and develop this ordinance from beginning to end. Help us out there so that they're all affected in the right way. All their stakes are in there, and whatever their liabilities are completely washed away, whatever they don't need to deal with. That's just my opinion on that, and I think we have a lot more work on this. It is very important. It looks like something we really, really need, but it has to be done with the utmost delicacy because we are interfering with a lot of different entities.
And it's kind of funny, I had a conversation, I was at the partnership in the outdoors conference run by CPW this last week, and I had a long conversation. One of the breakout sessions was a river mapping project that the state is working with BLM, and I sat down with Doug Bislak, anyway, doesn't matter, and we had a lengthy conversation, particularly about rivers, river ordinances, river management, how that all works as the state is working on developing this river mapping project for the state. And the river affects everybody. You wouldn't think you come into a town, you see water flowing, and you're like, oh, there's a beautiful river. And you start talking, and then everybody is somehow connected to the river, whether it be the irrigators, whether it be the recreationists, whether it be the city, whether it be people who live thousands of miles away in Kansas who are getting our water, everybody. So it is it's a very involved, I don't want to say convoluted, it's not necessarily convoluted, but a very involved process.
Right. Yeah. And like I say, thank you very much. We need to protect our investment plus their investments, and that's why I say it's just a very delicate line. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Thurman?
I want to say thank you. Looks like we're coming to the end of the tunnel. I see some light at the end of the tunnel as far as river cleanup and Trinidad having the jewel of the river in the middle of downtown. I remember this happening 7 or 8 years ago, and I wasn't even on council, and I was coming to these meetings as a citizen, noticing how crazy all these entities were trying to lay claim and move the river and have it cleaned up, and now we're at the editing phase of this conversation where we're just talking about ordinances, which seems like a lot, but right now this is the best part. We're closing in on the end of this hot topic, so I appreciate everybody involved. Carlos, Mr. Where's my guy back there, Mooses? How's it going? Making sure that he's part of this conversation, because me and him used to talk all the time about how this river was a disaster, and now it's playing its part, and we're just now trying to tied the loose ends to this conversation. So I appreciated everybody involved in this. Thank you.
Mr. Williamson, any final words?
Potentially. It's observationally true, sometimes the light at the end of the tunnel is a train. And
Still white.
And if that's true, it's going to result in a train wreck. So, well, I think it's important. In my professional experience, I think I've learned something that Mr. Holder, Officer Holder, said. It's important that you leave or depend on professionals to do their professional work. And I think that, you know, today there's been some demonstration that we may be bypassing in some regard some professionals and their input on this. So I think it's important that we loop that in. It's also true that a lot of effort by a lot of different agencies have been put into the river, and to Councilman Thurman's point, the river's observationally better than it was years ago in many regards. You know, some regards there is some areas that are not as good, but that's probably due to the vagrancy issue that we have. That being said, it's important to protect that work, and if the sole effort or sole intent of this effort is to protect our investment, I think we can go about it in a lot more simple fashion, just with, I mean, ordinance that limits new work to be done without consulting the city. The problem with this is a potential problem with this is it introduces a lot of sidelines that are going to have unintended consequences, i.e. the train at the end of the tunnel. In my opinion, I think we really need to do a major rework of this before proceeding. And that doesn't mean necessarily a huge amount of time, because we do want to see the work that we've been doing, starting with our terror group, proceed. We want to protect the work that PWP has done and every other agency that's helped to improve the river, but I do think it's gonna not be in the form of this as it exists currently. That's my opinion.
All right, Mr. Ramirez, do you have anything to say, sir?
Yeah, I guess just a couple of things. One is the substitute water supply plan. I inserted that language. The reason for that is if Division of Water Resources determines there's an injury to a water right, then the injured party needs to be made whole. Anytime you have something going on a river, when that happens, the state requires a substitute water plant. The city's in a unique position. We are the only entity on the drainage that has fully consumable water, so they're knocking on our door to come up with that substitute water supply. So that's the reason I inserted that. It may or may not happen, but when we talked, when we had the first meetings about the river work, the irrigators did bring that up, and that's the reason I inserted that.
Okay.
That was to make the irrigators happy.
Okay.
And to make sure we complied. I guess my only other comment would be, I'm hoping once we get this all cleaned up, that this is not a mechanism for saying no. It becomes a mechanism for helping us find a way to say yes. That's my hope. Thank you.
Well said. Good final word.
And with that, I'll final with him. Unless you have any other questions or.
No, everybody. All righty, let's take,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Chatterley. Let's take a 5-minute break, sir. Pardon? Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. The work session is over. We'll start the special meeting at about 4:30.